the next section we're doing is on to the bad. The bad of this week is going to be, Johnny, surprisingly, maybe some people may say, the Indianapolis Colts. Though they beat the Dolphins at home 16-10, make them now 4-3, and second in the AFC South. I am not convinced with this Indianapolis Colts team, and unfortunately, maybe not overly convinced by Anthony Richardson either. It isn't looking pretty. This Dolphins team had Snoop Huntley and Tim Boyle playing this game. I think Snoop went out injured in the end, and they only just squeaked past the Dolphins. So people are saying a pretty terrible team at the minute. What's your take on the Colts from this week? Because I'm sorry, with Anthony Richardson and the roster they have, they should be blowing this Dolphins team out of the water.
Yeah, the Dolphins should have won this game. It obviously took a huge play from their linebacker Saquon Alubi to force a fumble and change the game on its head late on. And obviously, playing against Tim Boyle, there's no real chance of a comeback from there. But I agree that the Colts just are a team with no identity at the moment. And their offense was abysmal for most of the game. We've criticised their defense at times this season. It's a really strange one because obviously Anthony Richardson has been, it's been an absolute roller coaster experience since they drafted him really high a couple of seasons ago. He's 5-4.
It weren't a couple of seasons ago, mate. They drafted him this year.
No, they didn't. They drafted him last year, Anthony Richardson.
Oh, yeah. So they did. Yeah, so they did because he was injured.
Yeah, so injuries last year. He's
I'm sorry. I'm being an idiot here. Sorry, I should keep my mouth shut over here. He was injured the whole year. Yeah, it has been a long weekend for me. Yes.
But he's 5-4 in 9 career starts, but he's only managed to finish 5 of those games. Obviously, injuries have played a huge part in his short NFL career. Like he's had great moments even this season. I mean, some of the passes he was making against the Texans on opening day, I was like, this guy has an absolute cannon, and surely we can work with that. But a 53% completion rate since entering into the league. He, decision making, obviously, mainly on his passing is way off. He's got so much to do to be in that conversation as a competent NFL starter. I think bearing another injury, the Colts still can't afford to sit Anthony Richardson because of that potential. They're a team that could potentially sneak into the playoffs with Joe Flacco, but they're not going to be a Super Bowl contender. And I think that is obviously the ultimate. That's what every team has, a level playing field in terms of okay, we can be as we are at the moment. If we're content with being very average or making the playoffs every year, then fine. But surely,
let me take that part of what you're saying there is that what's the point of starting Joe Flacco if these guys are actually going on maybe a potential playoff run, right? So you're in my mind, you're saying if they sit Joe Flacco and get rid of Richardson, that's not a good thing, which I agree with. The age factor and everything like that, the development of Richardson can do, the talent of what Richardson can do. But given that he was injured the whole of last year, has come in and started this year, has had frequent injuries this year, has got Joe Flacco in, who weirdly enough has been a bit of a success around every team he's been to in the last few years, including your New York Jets, including the Cleveland Browns, who now in hindsight, the Cleveland Browns are looking at Joe Flacco and thinking we should have kept him, potentially might even go and trade for him. You never know. But so this is this year, right? And I'm not saying get rid of Richardson, but this is this year. But Flacco has started 2 games, Richardson has 5. Richardson has 101 attempts, Flacco 108. Richardson has 783 yards, 716 yards by Flacco. Flacco has 7 touchdowns to Richardson's 3. Flacco has 1 interception to Richardson's 6. He has 37 first down throws to Richardson's 27. He's got 238 yards per game compared to Richardson's 156. I know I'm missing out a big thing here. The rushing capability. Richardson has, it's not popping out at me straight away, 197 yards rushing to Flacco's 26. I know that. They are two different quarterbacks. I get that. But isn't it maybe worth Richardson taking the backseat for this season and them going, look, this is not you benched cut. This is not you us getting rid of you. This is us going, sit for the year and watch Flacco do everything. Be the sponge. You are young. You're only, 22. You're a phenom in Florida. But that game can't work in the NFL unless you hone in on the other skills, i.e. what Lamar has done in Baltimore, who weirdly enough sat behind Flacco as well. That coincidence has just completely popped into my head about that. What do you think to that aspect?
I think it's similar to well, maybe not, because I was going to say that it's a little bit similar to Bryce Young. Obviously, the Panthers are 10 times worse than the Colts.
Also, different players as well, I think.
Different, exactly. But in terms of young quarterbacks having the experience to do whatever, and potentially being sat behind someone, but does it really make too much of a difference in terms of the prospect of the team in that given year? The Colts obviously are they 4-2 now? But they've got to go and play the Texans, the Vikings, I think the Bills as well in the next 3 weeks. So they've got a horrendous, I think, next 3 weeks, particularly, those defensive issues.
They're 4-3 at the minute. And
4-3. Okay, so it's still a winning record. They've obviously
Texans, Vikings. In fact, their bye is week 14, and they've got to come against the Texans, who are a fight. They can be incredible or not in some places. The Vikings, who people can argue are the best team in the NFL at the minute. Some people can argue that. The Bills, again, but maybe one of the best teams in the NFL at the minute up there. The Jets, who all said and done, have still got a good defense. And even though they weren't great against the Steelers, the Lions, who are, again, some may say, the best team in the NFL. And then the Patriots, who, December Patriots, that's a different game. And it's at New England as well.
I'm going to go back to the Panthers because I think it resonates a little. They've got these are two organizations who have young, fairly inexperienced head coaches who I think, particularly with the Panthers, knew they were in, a bit of a bad spot. I think you can say the same about Shane Steichen. I think he did enough last year for, if they went on a poor run, if they played Anthony Richardson for the remainder of the year, say they, only won 2 more games for the rest of the year, I don't think they would, fire him. So I don't know if what I'm trying to say is I think, the potential of getting more out of Anthony Richardson is surely should be the primary focus for a team that isn't all there at the moment. So I think even if they can sneak into the playoffs, I wouldn't be expecting this Colts team to go on a run. I don't think their defense is very good. I don't know. I think you've got to at least give him obviously they won this weekend with Richardson playing. Obviously he came under a lot of criticism. There were boos around Lucas Oil Stadium. But I think that the potential is still there. We may not have seen it, as consistently as enough. And, he may have to probably will endure, a lot more turbulence over the next few weeks if he does play. But what is the point of investing in, and like, why aren't the Panthers going back to Bryce Young because they are, they're so bad? Why not try and at least unlock the potential somewhere? With him on the field, I don't know. I understand the logic of sitting someone to watch and understand.
It sounds like you don't think there's a benefit to it.
But he's had an opportunity to do that when he was injured last year. Watching Gardner Minshew or watching how this team plays. I think this isn't the start of the season. Your team is it's not there at the moment. Surely give Richardson the opportunity. If he doesn't prove it by the end of the year, then fine. He's not the guy. You're going to have to somehow move on from him, like Bryce Young, like that situation. But I just don't think it makes sense to bench him for Flacco at the moment. I don't understand. I don't think it makes them that much more of a better team for the present. Yeah,
but is it all? But is it all about the like? Let's be honest.
I don't think the Colts will win a playoff game.
Yeah, then what's the point? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what's the point? I just see it as a long-term thing. You bench him now. Yeah, let's say you're going to lose more games with Joe Flacco. You get a better draft pick. You get that year of experience of sitting there. Yeah, all right, you miss out on the playoffs. Some people, I can imagine those Colts fans maybe at the start of the year were going, this could probably be a playoff team. But and when you look at them, they're ranked in the AFC, the whole team's together. I'm talking, they're ranked 6th. Broncos won 4-3 as well. The teams above them, the Steelers, the Bills, the Ravens, the Texans, the Chiefs. I know the Steelers lost to the Colts, but that for me was an off day. It was an off day. The Colts played unbelievable in that game. I think we would beat them later on in the season, especially with Russell Wilson, how he played at the weekend back at the helm. The Bills beat them easy. The Ravens beat them easy. The Texans beat them easy. The Chiefs beat them easy. So then you look at the teams that are around the Colts there. The Broncos, the Chargers, the Bengals. The Bengals 3-4, Chargers 3-3, Broncos 4-3. I think they're all very evenly matched teams. They are very all evenly matched. Now, I'm not saying that if they got drawn against maybe one of them teams in the playoffs that they couldn't win and go to the next one, but it's that we know this is not a Super Bowl winning team. Your benchmark at the minute is the Ravens, the Chiefs for me. Well, the Ravens is the biggest benchmark, but the Ravens, the Chiefs, the Bills are your benchmark. And if you're not at that level, what's the point?
Yeah,
and that sounds really stupid because obviously, like, everyone has ambitions to go into the Super Bowl, but you got to be a bit real with yourself.
Yeah.
I know the playoffs, it can be anyone can win in the playoffs. It's a totally different scenario, but you've got to be a bit real. Shall we set ourselves up for this year or set ourselves up for the next 10 years?
Exactly. And I like going back to that bench point. I get that, but there has to be a point where you give someone experience. And Anthony Richardson, I think, is the type of athlete that he's hardly played any games in college. We still don't understand. He's so raw that he has to figure it out on the field, and he's only going to learn more by experiencing those plays and developing into a type of quarterback that we expect him to be. This hugely athletic, obviously using his feet. Why do we just the run game is obviously with Jonathan Taylor, and we saw Tyler Goodson, I think, looks a nice little addition as well. If you can get something working around that and push that into Richardson a lot more, then fantastic. Obviously, decision making has been a huge part of Richardson's the criticism that he's received. I think that's only going to get better if you give him more experience. And like I say, if not, then okay, you realise that this isn't working. You then move on. I don't know, with too many quarterbacks over the last few years, they whether that be obviously through injury or not potentially been given the opportunities. We've sadly seen them not develop and I was a huge advocate, even though I knew how badly he was playing, for Zach Wilson to play every game with Aaron Rodgers injured last season. That he's only going to get better, surely. And if not, then fine, move on at the end of the year. It's one of those. Unfortunately, I don't think it's it's going to be there for the Colts this year. But they've made such an investment, like the Panthers, that they surely can't give on them mid-season when the team is already so well. The Panthers obviously a lot worse, but not the Super Bowl or playoff really contending team at the moment.
They need to make a decision. I think they need to make some sort of decision and make it pretty soon for them to sort of figure out how this season is going to be.